Hey, so I'm Caitlin Smith, and I'm doing my presentation on typical family member. So about a month ago, I had a patient who's in the progressive care unit on a BiPAP. Her ABG is really bad. They were pretty critical. They're about like 110, 120s consistently. She's at her baseline. She wasn't disoriented. She has some developmental delays, but other than that, she was fine. She had a boyfriend who came visit her frequently. She was also on contact for the flu. He came in one day. He walked into the room, didn't wear a mask. So I just went in and said, hey, don't forget to wear a mask, but I don't want you to get the flu. He said he didn't care, he wasn't going to wear it. So I just asked him, okay, that's fine. Please just wear the mask when you're leaving so you don't give anybody else the flu. He proceeded to just ignore that and just, kind of snap at me, why are you starving her? Talking about the patient. I tried to explain to him, that we're not starving her, that she's NPO for a reason because she's on the BiPAP, that as long as she's on it, the better her CO2 levels should get. So that's why we need her to be on it. But that we were also giving them breaks. He wasn't happy with that. He told me that I was arguing with him, and that he was gonna sue me and tell the doctor. I explained to him that the doctor was the one who gave me the orders. He was not happy with that. He said that he's gonna sign her on AMA. I told him that's not a good idea because her health is pretty bad right now. He kept getting worse and worse. He kept yelling at me, telling me that I'm not doing anything, that I'm not helping her, that I'm just starving her. I tried to explain to him that she is getting breaks. She had just gotten a break out of the BiPAP, and that she will get another break shortly. In the end, he told me that to get out of the room. I told him that I could not do that because I am the nurse and I'm trying to take care of the patient, but that he could leave. He refused to leave, so I had to call security. So security escorted him out. So conflict management. You have compromising, competing, cooperating, smoothing, avoiding, and collaborating. So compromising is where each person gives up something that they want. Competing is where one person competes with another person to get what they want instead of letting the other person get what they want. Cooperating and accommodating is just kind of sacrificing what you want to let another person win. Smoothing things over just means when one person attempts to just pacify the situation and just forget it. Avoiding means that neither one of you want to admit that there's a problem and neither one of you want to resolve it. And then collaborating means you come together to have a common goal. Conflict management. For me, I definitely could have cooperated better and accommodated to the patient's boyfriend better. I could have asked what was wrong. I could have asked him what I could do to make things better. I could have come to an agreement with him as to what I could do. I could have said, if you give me a minute, I'll call the doctor and get a diet ordered. I could have compromised a lot better in that way. Or I could have avoided the whole entire situation. As soon as he started raising his voice at me and made threats, I could have just said, you know what, I'm going to give you some time to calm down and I'll be back later. I could have just avoided the whole thing. I also could have smoothed things over. I could have said, I hear what you're saying. I agree and I get it. Let me go call the doctor and give me a few minutes and I'll come back with an answer and a diet order, okay? All right, negotiating before, during, and after. Before the conflict, I should have definitely prepared myself for some backlash just in case. He kind of came in hot, so I should have just been mentally prepared. I also should have come up with some kind of incentives, like, hey, what can I do for him that'll make him happier so he'll calm down? And I definitely should have had a starting point for the conversation. As soon as I walked in asking him about the mask, I should have just had an idea of how the conversation was going to go from the beginning. During the conflict, I definitely did maintain my composure. I didn't yell. I was professional. I was assertive. I stood my ground, but I let him know, I'm here to listen to you also. I feel like during the whole thing, I could have given him a break, like I said before. I could have just walked away and been like, you know what, I see you're upset. Let me come back, and then we can talk about it calmly. After the conflict, I feel like I could have maybe had a better conversation with him. I could have reiterated our conversation. I could have met with him and had a common goal, and it just could have made the whole outcome a better outcome instead of it ending with security escorting him out. I just feel like it could have been handled a little bit better looking back at it now. Destructive techniques. So you have sadness, ridicule, and aggressively taking over. So sadness, it's kind of destructive because it's negative, because when you are arguing with another person and you see them all of a sudden get sad, it kind of makes you feel defeated and you kind of just feel bad for that person and let them win. It's never a good thing. So if you're wrong, then you're wrong. If you're trying to end a conflict, you need to end it. Ridicule. It's never okay to make fun of somebody. It's never okay to talk down to somebody. It's not a negative, or it's not a positive thing to do. It's just wrong. It's never going to help solve a conflict. And then lastly, aggressively taking over. So for this one, just if you're in a conflict and you're being overly aggressive, whether it means physically or just assertively, it's never a good idea. It's good to stand your ground and it's good to be aggressive, but it's not okay to be overly aggressive to where you're posing a threat to somebody else. It's never going to make the situation better. So 5 rights of delegation. This is part 2. You have right task, circumstance, person, direction / communication, and supervision. So right task. You just want to make sure that it's the right task for someone to complete. You want to make sure that it's in their job description to do. Right circumstance. You want to make sure that it's the right situation to do. You don't want to get up a patient who has a broke leg and ask them to walk if they can't walk. Right person. You want to make sure, like I said before, you're asking the right person to do the job. You can't ask like a nursing assistant to do a nurse's job. And then right direction / communication. You need to make sure that you're precisely communicating what you need someone to do and giving them the full directions to do it. And then lastly, right supervision. You need to make sure that you go behind them and see that the task has been completed, because even if you delegate a task to somebody, it still falls back on you. So for me, to make sure each delegation was appropriate, I'd look at all the job descriptions each person I spoke with. So I have asked a speech therapist to evaluate a patient with swallowing difficulty. Is that a good thing to do? Yes, because the speech therapist, they're qualified, so they do. They test people's speech, they test people's swallowing abilities to make sure that they're not an aspiration risk. That's appropriate. I've also asked my charge nurse to medicate a patient so the medicine's not late while I'm in an emergency. If I'm in a code and I can't pass someone's pain medicine, I'm going to ask somebody who's not busy to do it for me. My charge nurse is above me. She is overly qualified, more than I am. Not overly qualified, but she's more qualified than I am to do this for me, so it's appropriate. I've also asked the secretary to call a consult. That's within her scope of practice. That's within her job description. She's able to call consults for me. And then asking a physical therapist if they can use a Hoyer lift to transfer my patient from the bed to the chair. That's appropriate because physical therapists are actually normally the ones who educate you on how to use things like the Hoyer lift. So it's the right task, it's the right person to ask. I asked them to do it before lunchtime, so it's the right direction. Gave them precise instructions, communicated it with them. Great. Lastly, I've asked the PCT to take someone to the bathroom if I'm busy, and then I've asked them how much urine output. That way I can document it. By doing that, that's me checking up with them, saying, hey, how much should they pee so I can document it? That's me falling back to make sure that the task that I delegated actually got completed. They're all appropriate. Delegation errors. So you can under-delegate. That means that you're not delegating enough tasks to people. So if my charge nurse is not delegating me enough tasks, I'm going to wonder why. I'm going to wonder, am I not competent enough? Am I not doing a good enough job? What's going on? You also over-delegate, where you're giving way too many tasks to people and you're burdening them. You're kind of burning them out. So if you're giving me 4 and 5 admins and you're not giving anybody else any admins, I'm going to have a crappy day. I'm going to wonder why you're picking on me, and I'm going to wonder why I'm getting the burden of this heavy load. You also can have improper delegating, which means that basically you're asking someone to do a job that they just cannot do. Like I said, you cannot ask a PCT, a patient care tech, who is a nursing assistant, you cannot ask them to pass medication. You cannot ask them to assess your patients. You cannot ask them to do those things. It's not within their job scope. They'll get in trouble. All right, part 3, healthy work environment. So Huddleston Mancini described healthy work environment as having policies, procedures, and processes clearly outlined to empower nurses to meet organizational goals, to achieve satisfaction in their jobs, and to retain nurses in healthcare settings. So basically, a healthy work environment means that you have the proper policies to do your job and your procedures. It means that you know exactly what is expected of you. You know what you're supposed to do. You know your job description. It means that you're completing all of your jobs with satisfaction. You have a good work environment. You're happy, and you don't have any desire to go elsewhere. Also, the American Association of Critical Care Nurses, they had an article on healthy work environments. They just kind of thought that the components of a healthy work environment involved skilled communication, collaboration, and teamwork, good decision making, adequate staffing, which is super important, recognition and praise, and good leadership. So basically, I feel like a good work environment or a healthy work environment, it does involve good communication. If you're not communicating properly with your staff, you're not going to get anything accomplished. It also involves collaboration. Nurses are working closely with doctors, with patient care techs, with therapists of all kinds, everything. You need to be able to have good teamwork to get the job done. Good decision making. When it comes to critical decisions, you need to make sure that you're making the proper decisions. So having a good decision making skill is crucial for nursing. This is most important to me. Adequate staffing. You need to have the proper staff. You cannot have critically low census for staff and have a high demand of patients. You need to have safe staffing practices. Plenty of nurses are leaving the field because staffing is not safe. Nobody seems to care. This is a huge issue. You also need to have praise. People want to know that they're doing a good job. So when you see someone doing a good job in your work environment, you need to let them know, like, hey, you're doing great. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. And I appreciate your effort. By giving someone praise, it just makes them feel better. It makes them want to work harder. Lastly, good leadership. People can't work if you don't have good leadership. If you don't have somebody above you who is leading the way and leading you into greatness, how are you going to be great? You can't do it on your own. Lastly, I work in a PCU. It's a progressive care unit. It used to be ICU, but now it's progressive, so it's stepped down. Back in the day when I first started, we were getting 4 patients per one nurse, 5 patients for one nurse. It was dangerous. You can't do that. You can't properly assess your patients. You can't take care of them. Nothing. We had plenty of unit counseling meetings. We had board director meetings with the head of the hospital, with the head of nursing, and we discussed the kinds of patients that we were getting, the acuity levels that we were getting, how sick everybody was, and we finally got it back down to 3 to 1. So now we're 3 patients, 1 nurse, and it's been working out perfectly. And we also have a charge nurse who takes 0 to 1 patients. That way we always have somebody who's there to help us if we need it, who's available. Safe staffing is huge. I feel like having enough staff and having enough patient staff ratio is important because it just makes you feel like you're able to properly take care of somebody. So for my unit, we do a lot of praise. We do gift cards. We also encourage each other to reach our unit goals. Some of our goals is making sure that we have low numbers of CAUTIs and CLABSIs on our unit, which we do have a low number of, so that's great. Just boosting each other up is really important for us. All right, lastly, so if my work environment was not healthy, I would definitely research ways to improve the workplace environment. I would use the American Association of Critical Care Nurses Healthy Work Environment Assessment Tool. I would ask float nurses what's going on. I would ask them to fill out a survey, just saying what they feel like could be improved on the unit and what they feel like was great about the unit, just so I would know. I'd also hold unit council meetings so I can get insight from my fellow workers to see what I could do or what we could do as a whole to improve the environment to make everybody happy. And after that, I would wrap it all up and bring it to my manager and just be like, hey, I have recommendations on how to improve the work environment and boost our morale. Lastly, an effective leader must make workers happy. They have to create a meaningful workplace. They need to allow employees to have a voice and voice their opinions. They need to also focus on company values, and that should be at the core. It's important to eliminate any toxic traits in the workplace because nobody wants to be around toxic people. And then lastly, you need to hire people who clearly understand the mission of the company. You want to hire people who have the same like-minded as you. So these are my references, and that is it. Thank you.